Hi everyone, it's Sandra and Landon out here with Gilligan, and Gilligan is holding his own at about 17.2, 17.3 degrees Celsius, so about 63, 64 degrees Fahrenheit. He's got a seed heating mat underneath, and he has been munching through lots of yummy leaves and pumpkin. And so my goal today is to give this bedding a little bit of a stir and to put in some more carbon and some more food. There you can see that Gilligan remains productive through the winter, not only in terms of producing castings, but also in terms of producing cocoons. So great. Now this is interesting. I put the leftovers from some kale containers in here thinking the kale was long dead. And there you go, it's starting to grow again. The worms won't eat it when it's alive, but I'll tell you, this is very hard to stir with these kale stems in here because they are all branchy. So I'm gonna move those to the side so I can give a better stir. Now, what I've noticed in the past with this sandbox converted worm bin is that because the bedding is so deep, I do get compression. And so doing these stirs, oh, there's the a gourd that we put in recently, so I also will move that to the side. The worms haven't found the gourd yet. What I did find in previous years is that the compression on the bottom can get quite bad just from the weight of these castings. Now, I did find worms pressed against the bottom when we harvested, and they were alive and kicking, so it doesn't seem to bother the worms, but it kind of bothered me that I wasn't getting a good mixing of the material. You see right now, just by digging a little on the side here, I'm bringing up some of the egg cartons that are on the bottom. The worms haven't totally eaten these egg cartons. They've obviously been on them. They're covered in castings. So, you know, by doing these little stirs, I'm hoping that I won't have the level of compression that I've found in years past, where I've sort of left the bottom alone until I do the final harvest. And here's what I mean. See these egg cartons that were on the bottom again? You know, the worms have been down there. There's more cocoons. There's leaves. There's everything. There's worms. It's warm on the bottom. That's where the seed heating mat is, under Gilligan in the bottom middle. So they obviously like it down there, but those egg cartons don't necessarily get the air and other things that they need to thoroughly break down. So there's a nice one of Gilligan's healthy worms in there. Yep, they love the egg cartons. But I do think this will create more uniform castings in the spring when I do the harvest, and we won't be sifting out quite as much as we have in years past. Yeah, I've just done a little bit of Gilligan. You know, I've probably done about 1/30th of Gilligan right now. He's a huge system. I'm not going to be able to stir him all up. So, you know, my purpose was just to get some of these newer leaves that were on the top, down the bottom, and then this old material, the egg cartons and whatnot, will go on top of that. And so there's a stir. So I've stirred up this one end of Gilligan a little bit, and that should, you know, like I said, create more uniform castings by the spring. Now, speaking of the spring, this is what this today is starting all about. There's another one of our kales. Look at these kale things that I pulled out of my containers that are now growing. Hilarious. Oops, I guess I picked those kale. Where's the stem? There it is. Oh, so hard to stir. I thought they would just decompose. There's a worm on it, but nope, they're not eating it. So speaking of the spring, Gilligan, I'm going to try to actually accelerate and do 3 harvests from Gilligan a year instead of 2. We filled him in mid-September, so my goal is to harvest him by March to demonstrate that even here in Vancouver Island, we can get 3 outdoor harvests a year from a worm bin. So to do that, I need to stop giving Gilligan the long carbon, the carbon like these leaves and needles that take longer for the worms to process. And I need to give him more quickly digestible forms of carbon like cardboard and newspaper. So I thought my cutoff date would be the end of December for a March harvest. And so today might be the last time that Gilligan gets some leaves. You know, these worms have been eating mostly leaves as their carbon. I guess those egg cartons, a little bit of those as well, but they've been eating mostly leaves. Obviously they love them. So today I'm going to give him maybe the last feeding of leaves, and then from here on it'll be faster forms of carbon. So let me just push the material over and we'll start putting some food in this trench that I'm creating. Lots of cocoons in here. And this material, I've got my bare hands in here. The moisture's good. Obviously the temperature is good, sitting right in the zone for red wigglers. And we have a thermometer in it, so I will know whether we have a power cut or something and the seed heating mat fails, or you know, the seed heating mat fails and gets too hot, or fails and gets too cold. So I'm just digging up some of these more finished castings from the bottom here. This is not where I've been feeding. I've been feeding mostly in the center trench. So I'm trying to move it a little bit to one edge now without going over the edge. And, you know, the worms will find it. All right, so that's not a huge trench. I might have to feed in more than one location. Got a little bit of castings muddiness on my hand. So first I'm just going to put some of these old leaves down the bottom, because these are already inoculated, so these will go quickly. So I'm picking off the dryish leaves from the top, and then I'm going to give them some of our shredded leaves. Now these leaves, I don't know whether you can see, but they have like a fungus building on them already. Worms are going to love that. I've got some pumpkin here for Gilligan. It's still somewhat frozen, so I'm going for the thawed bits because I don't really want to chill down this worm bin. So there's some of these outside bits are thawed. So give Gilligan some pumpkin. There we go. Next up is I do microgreens all year round, and sometimes a batch of microgreens fails, and Gilligan is the happy recipient of my failures. So here's a batch of kale sprouts that failed. And there you go. So Gilligan loves the failed microgreens. Lots of microbes on those. And lastly, I've got some of my processed food scraps. These are going in here. That beautiful red beet color. Look at those red beet stains on my hand. We've obviously had beets recently. Because the pumpkin went in there, I'm going to give some eggshell dust as well as some glacial rock dust. There you go. My food scraps will have eggshell powder already in them, but the pumpkin didn't. The sprouts didn't. So there's that. Let me just look. Do I have anything else? I could put these kale on here. There, I don't think the worms are going to eat them. These kale branches, but you never know. Put them in the feeding zone. This little gourd, put it in the feeding zone. Put some of these dry leaves from this far edge in the feeding zone. This also, by the way, will carry with it the inoculation of this bin, which will get this food going a bit faster. which will be good for Gilligan's worms. I'm sure they'll appreciate that. And then I'm going to top it off with some of those mildewy leaves from our bin. There we go, some more mildewy leaves, and then just with my hands I can just pull over Gilligan's existing leaves and castings over top. There we go. Look how lovely this material is. This is an outdoor bin. Doesn't get rainfall on it. We protect Gilligan from the rain, but you know, for an outdoor bin, that's pretty darn good here in Canada in the winter. So I guess what my last thing that I will do is I'm going to top him up with some coffee. So here's just some coffee, and it's in pretty big lumps. So I'm going to get my hand dirty again by breaking up, but you see the mildew on the coffee. Again, the worms will love that. Oh, these little coffee things are hard to break up. I've done this before with Gilligan. I've come out here and given him some coffee just at the top. It's all good. It'll add to the nitrogen mix of the castings as well. So there you go. All right, everyone. Bye for now.